Story 1. If someone is always sure they are right, never admits mistakes, cannot explain simple things, mocks others' opinions without arguments, and constantly tries to seem smarter, it is a red flag. True intelligence shows in curiosity, flexible thinking, and the ability to question things. Story 2. They never admit that they could be wrong about something. The ability to change an opinion when exposed to new information is a common trait in intelligent people. Story 3. Being deliberately, willfully ignorant. I know what I know, and that's all that matters. The minute something like that enters the conversation, I know they are an idiot and a moron. Story 4. Absolutely nothing. Some intelligent people will not stop talking about how smart they are, while other intelligent people think they are foolish. Some intelligent people are unwilling to consider being wrong, while other intelligent people constantly question and critique themselves. Some intelligent people are extremists who dislike everyone who is not like them, while other intelligent people are incredibly empathetic and will not stop fighting for a just cause. There is no common thread between intelligent people because it is just a trait that a person is born with. That is why whenever this thread gets reposted, it always devolves into what I do not like to see in a person rather than what signifies intelligence. Story 5. This is some signs. For some of the people in the comments saying you can't for sure tell. Obviously, that's why the original poster is asking for signs. Adamantly ignorant. 2. Listens to echo chambers. 3. Cannot entertain perspectives other than their own. 4. Uses lack of education as an excuse. 5. Unable to problem solve. 6. No curiosity. 7. Does not seek answers. Never asks questions. 9. Argumentative. 10. Believe they know everything. These are just potential signs. An intelligent person can have all of these traits too. Intelligence is not linear. This reminds me when at work someone said someone was dumb because they couldn't spell. I had to correct them and let them know that's education. That is not correlated to intelligence. Sadly, people are unable to differentiate between education and intelligence. Story 6. No intellectual curiosity. Finding something out because the question occurred to you is completely alien to some people. More accurately, the question would not occur to them. Why would anyone read a nonfiction book? I was asked once by someone baffled when I told them what I was reading. Story 7. 1. They will not give others a chance to speak. They are not willing to learn. They do not listen. They do not know how to read a person or the room. They dismiss any constructive criticism. They lack critical thinking. They get angry easily. They raise their voice to cover others. They do not know basic manners. 10. They are always seeking attention. 11. They do not read. 12. They only eat fast food. 13. They claim to know everything. 14. They do not apologize. 15. They laugh at others' misfortunes. Story 8. My dad was genuinely intelligent. Top of his class in Cambridge. Lecturer for the highest level students. Privately taught high-profile people's children to pass exams so they weren't embarrassed. Contributed to scientific papers that are widely known. The thing he said the most was a commonly known saying, but still perfectly apt. I know enough to know how little I know. I have achieved enough to know I am better than no one. It's easy for me to see people who are faking because I grew up with the real deal. I did not inherit this intelligence, but I did get his long arse toes. Story 9. They will borrow quotes and opinions from authorities on certain topics and believe that the authority figure is correct because of their position, rather than looking into it to confirm for themselves. This is different from, I agree with a person because of reasons, and then they provide personal anecdotes and real-world examples, which shows the ability to think critically. I would prefer someone who is intelligent but uninformed and whom I disagree with over someone who blindly follows an authority figure I happen to agree with. Do not misunderstand me. I realize that beyond the surface level, this line of thinking can get messy. I am very heavily generalizing. Story 10. Someone who always has someone or something to blame. They never take accountability and don't realize that their actions change their life. Everything is always out of their hands. Story 11. They make claims without any willingness to support them, or their sources are incredibly biased and unreliable, for example, anti-vaxxers. The sort of people that call everyone sheep and hold the notion that all mainstream media are lying to everyone. But the blog they found is the truth. Story 12. Thinking they are correct in knowing everything and believe they know better. Then when someone explains how it works, they do not listen and continue doing it incorrectly. Story 13. They see curiosity and learning new things as a waste of time. They rarely reflect on actions or wonder about the root cause of things. Everything is black or white with no shades of gray. They prefer instant gratification instead of thinking about long-term consequences or commitments. They lack empathy and cannot see things from another's perspective. They believe they are always right and everyone else is wrong. Story 14. People who can't do simple math. I'm talking like simple math. Like, what's 10% of $150? The people who hear any sort of math question and their brains turn off completely just aren't even trying to be fully functioning people. Story 15. Black and white thinking. Almost everything is a shade of gray that requires an understanding of nuance and context. There's no this or that, but rather a blend of this and that. Also, I fully understand how saying that is seemingly contradictory to the point I'm making. Quite a paradoxical quandary. Black and white thinking is often an indication of refusal to understand another point of view. We are in a crisis of zero-sum mentality right now, and it is eroding us down to a bitter, mutually assured destruction. Story 16. If you don't think you are unintelligent, you are not intelligent. At best, you know a lot of trivial knowledge or you are highly skilled in one field, making you less useful in nearly all others. No one knows what is happening, and then we die. Story 17. They are extremely opinionated on things they don't understand the basic mechanics of. They don't admit to mistakes, can't handle criticism, and are selfish. Story 18. They think rewriting someone's talking points in alternating caps is a devastating rebuttal. Also applies if they use homophones or a hick accent. They can't comprehend the difference between this specific argument in favor of a certain point is not valid and a certain point is false. Story 19. Racism and low intelligence quotient are highly correlated, so that's an easy one. Smart people will tell you when their knowledge ends and their ignorance begins. Dumb people trust their own judgment no matter how ignorant they are on the subject. Story 20. They think they are smart and think too much about how smart they are. They are unwilling to consider other perspectives and take criticism as hostility. They never self-reflect or usually don't. Story 21. Creationism. Flat earthers. Anti-vaccine supporters. Biblical literalists. No respect for education. The belief that my uninformed opinions about anything are as valid as the opinions of people who have education and experience in a particular field. I am not going to tell my dentist how to perform a root canal. I am not going to tell my plumber how to install my new hot water heater. I am not going to tell a judge that I know the Constitution better than she does. No matter how many videos I have watched or how many guidebooks I have found on the internet, I might respectfully ask questions, but unless there is clearly some evidence of incompetence or malfeasance, I would be cautious in my approach and would try to make my response appropriate to the situation. Story 22. I work with a lot of people who seem intelligent enough but are shallow and only care about material possessions. I think people who place things above people have a sort of unintelligence that is hard to be around. Story 23. If you can't picture them saying, "I don't know," people are well-learned because they acknowledge and are excited by the unknown and foreign. Those who want to appear smart wear an illusion that there's nothing left for them to learn. Story 24. They are on an AskReddit question posting about signs that someone isn't intelligent as if they have enough intelligent insight to answer such a question. Story 25. Heard a great statistic at the end of last year. The majority of Americans believe they are above average intelligence. The opposite is actually the truth. It was an official poll. I forget which company conducted it, but I would say that it makes logical sense. Story 26. For a start, people who say everything as if they know it all appear more like show-offs, not really smart. It's like they want people to think they are intelligent but really aren't. Story 27. They vote for a person who will directly violate all of their rights and interests, and then, for some reason, double down on it and claim that they are happy. Story 28. Using sarcasm. Right off the bat, if the first time I meet someone they're snarky or sarcastic, I know they lack any form of wit or respect for themselves or others. Story 29. They discuss flat earth theory with a straight face and use the phrases, "But if you really think about it, the theory is only a theory. Trust me and my tin-foil hat." Story 30. When somebody cannot distinguish the information they know from what others could or should reasonably know, it can lead to misunderstandings. An example is talking about a niche hobby or interest, expecting others to know about it too, perhaps even at the same level, and viewing them as unintelligent for not knowing. A related issue is when people share random thoughts without context and expect others to follow along immediately. Story 31. They do not care about where their information comes from, or if the source is credible. They only care about how the information received makes them feel. If it makes them feel good, it must be correct, and if it makes them feel bad, it must be wrong. An intelligent person cares about what is factual and correct, regardless of how it makes them feel. A very intelligent person will accept hard truths in an effort to face reality as it is, even when it makes them feel awful. Story 32. The most obvious one I have noticed is they have a really odd sense of time. Like I have heard people who thought medieval times was the 1800s, or that Picasso and Dali were at the same time as Michelangelo. They are usually the same people that act like a movie from the 1980s is really old, as if it was a silent film. Story 33. They do not collaborate with others, do not trust others to do simple tasks, do not trust that others have knowledge and skills, think they are the only ones with the answers, have little lived experience but a lot of opinions. Story 34. When they don't realize they are being manipulated, it makes it really hard for me to be compassionate because it seems all too common in everyday life. I hate watching people make excuses for others because they won't even begin to imagine a person that knows right from wrong purposely playing dumb and using them. I just roll my eyes at the times I hear someone's story about trying to teach someone how to treat them right. They are just buying the abuser more time. The abuser knows what they do, and they love that you don't believe they're capable and undermine their intelligence. Story 35. If they can't seem to see any viewpoint other than their own, more often than not it's because they lack the intelligence to see things from someone else's perspective. Story 36. 1. Consistently using inappropriate words wrong. 2. Frequently getting minor details wrong about movies and television. 3. Inability to hold consistent moral views, constantly being a hypocrite with no awareness. 4. Lack of metacognition, thinking about thinking. 5. Tendency to make choices based on single, not particularly relevant factors. 6. Does the same thing repeatedly and expects different results. 7. Continually surprised by predictable events. Treats prayer to their god or gods like a vending machine. 9. Claims to do their own research. 10. Thinks Elon Musk is a genius. 11. Invested in cryptocurrency in the last 3 years. 12. More afraid of evil superintelligent artificial intelligence than, say, climate change. 13. Easily misled by deceptive advertising. 14. Confident about their immunity to being conned but constantly deceived. 15. Ignores or is unable to perceive red flags. 16. Favors common sense over empiricism. 17. Expects respect but won't give it in return. 18. Confidently bad driver. 19. Atrocious at gift giving. 20. Tendency to get caught up in cults. Story 37. Are you asking about someone who is genuinely unintelligent, or a person who isn't as smart as they think they are? Because the latter is a much more interesting question in my opinion. I once had a friend who was reasonably intelligent, though not as gifted as he thought he was, but his ideas lacked any depth or seriousness, and he seemed to compensate for that by being intentionally verbose and overly articulate. He would often do things for the express purpose of coming off as sophisticated or smart, such as listening to classical music or pretentiously correcting even the most minor of grammatical mistakes. Story 38. They judge or react too quickly without hearing all the facts and sides, without letting someone finish what they are saying. Anyone who is solely governed by their emotions is a problem firmly rooted in ignorance. Story 39. Intelligence can be assessed by the sensibility of their analysis, conclusions, and logic. Security in their intelligence is indicated by intellectual honesty and curiosity. In analytical and logical considerations, people secure in their intelligence engage in mutual dialogue to reach a better understanding. For example, they consider the most charitable interpretation of each perspective. Ask questions until they reach deep levels of understanding, unafraid of asking about seemingly simple or basic things to reveal potentially important underlying concepts. And do not get defensive or opportunistic in discussions to make the other appear wrong when both perspectives are likely correct or valuable in some way. People insecure in their intelligence, or deliberately arguing in bad faith, are often performative and opportunistic, trying to create an expedient soundbite where they sound right. A theoretical third person, listening but not thinking critically about what is being said, might agree with your argument because it is specious, initially appealing but actually false if analyzed critically. The classic example is how presidential debate participants argue, appealing constantly to an uncritical audience, or how the online debate me, get owned genre of videos generally goes. It is not exactly academic rigor. This is done by knocking down a straw man, moving goalposts, using words with ambiguous meanings, being dishonest or disingenuous, trying to attack the credibility of the other person, and insidiously over time manufacturing an imagined and exaggerated track record for others that can be referenced when expedient.